Alrighty, so let's start today's class. This will be on DotLoop and Greensheets, very important part of our job. DotLoop is this interactive space that we use to store our documents. And as most of you are aware, we are supposed to keep our documents by law for at least 5 years. Well, luckily for us, we have this thing called DotLoop, which allows us actually to store our documents in an online storage space, which will keep them there for at least 7 years. So that's 2 extra years. Very convenient, very easy. For those of you that are a little more experienced or have been agents for a while, maybe you're a little more familiar with form simplicity. While DotLoop has absolutely the same features as form simplicity. However, in my personal opinion, using both systems, DotLoop is a little more user-friendly than form simplicity. A huge difference between the two systems is that DotLoop will require an email address for each and every individual that will be signing the documents. So if you have a husband and wife who only use one email address, they will have to go and create a second email address so they can both sign the documents. And that feature was created with the purpose that for security, really, for the client security, with the idea that if they use 2 different email accounts, they have to sign in with 2 different passwords or anything like that, which kind of creates a level of security, peace of mind for our clients. Now, there's a couple of ways to go into DotLoop. One of them is simply by typing dotloop.com. However, at this point, when you try to sign in, you'll actually have to know your credentials. And I'm finding out that a lot of our agents don't know their credentials. That's why we have the second way to log into our DotLoop account, and that's through Market Leader, which makes it really convenient because it keeps everything in one place. So we're going to go to Market Leader, to myKW, and at the control panel, what most of you will actually see right here under myTransaction is going to be a little link that's called Start a New Transaction. Now, I have a little bit different of a control panel, but this is the link I'm talking about. So all you have to do is click on that link, and it will automatically log you into DotLoop. Again, if you're brand new, right now your loop's going to look something like this initially, or if you are switched to the list view, it will look something like that. I'm a little more visual person, so I personally prefer the grid view. That's why I have little circles instead of the lines. Alrighty, well today I'm gonna work my way actually backwards, starting with your profile settings, going through templates, people, tasks, and ending with the loops. Dashboard really is just a bunch of reporting. You can go and take a look at it, but it's not something I'll spend any time on in today's class. So if you hover over your picture, you're going to see you have some links to tutorials into the training center. If you have any questions after this class, and if you can't get in touch with me, feel free to look at the tutorials, read through the training center's blogs, see if you can find the answers, or you can always call the support line. They're actually pretty good at answering. This is a direct line, so you're not going to be transferred too many times, hopefully. And if you do call this support line, please pay attention to your ID, which can be found right underneath the number or at the bottom right of each and every page in DotLoop. They're going to be asking you for that number once when you call. So I'm going to click on my account and go and preview some of the settings DotLoop's offering. On the first one, it's going to be my profile. And like you see, I have two accounts here, one for admin for Keller Williams and one that was my personal real estate account. So I'm going to be only focusing on the real estate account so it can match what you guys are seeing at your DotLoop. Profile photo, name information, very important. Make sure all the spelling is correct. Make sure you have the right phone number. You do not need to put the office phone number. You could always use your personal cell phone number if that's what you want to use for business. It's entirely up to you. You don't necessarily need to put your license or your ID. It's entirely, again, up to you if you do so. As far as the ID, I'm not even sure what ID are they asking for. Maybe some companies have IDs required, ours doesn't, so all you really can fill in here it's your license if you have it handy. Okay. Brokerage and associations. At the very least, all of you should have Keller Williams Realty Emerald Coast under this tab. If for some reason you see that you do not have that association entered, please go and do so by clicking on this little link, Add Association. You're going to have to find the name of it, and it's going to ask you for invitation code, which you can get here in the Market Center. Just give us a call and we're going to get you the invitation code. Next section, company information. You can go ahead and put the company name. Again, you do not have to put the company phone number unless you want to. It's entirely up to you. If you change the company number though, it's going to change the phone number up here as well. So they're kind of linked to each other. So I would recommend just leave it with your cell phone number instead. As far as address, you can put the address of the brokerage over here, or if you're working from a different location like 38, Navarre, Niceville, you're more than welcome to put those as well. As far as email notifications, I would recommend having all of those check boxes selected. That way, every time something changes in the loop, you're going to receive an email directly to the email you're using for DotLoop, which usually it's your @kw.com email address, unless you've requested a different one. And you're going to receive notifications when the client signed the documents, if your file passed compliance, or if it was returned for some reason. You're going to receive notifications for a lot of things, but that helps you stay on top of your game, on top of your business, so you don't miss anything. That's why I always recommend you just select all the notifications so you know what's going on. At any point, if you make any changes to your profile, please be sure to go at the very bottom and click on the Save button. Otherwise, it's going to revert back to the original settings. Okay, next section, under My Account, it's going to be the Settings one. Again, go and take a look and see if you have the correct spelling. At this point, you can select how you want to sign documents. We all know that some of the documents will require our signature as well. For instance, the lead-based paying disclosure, if I recall right, was one of those documents that require the realtor to sign and initial the disclosure as well. So just make sure you go and enter how you want to sign your name. Do you want full name, first initial and full name? Entirely, again, up to you. Same with the initials. Do you want to only initial with first and last name, or do you want to initial with your full name? This is the email address that you're using to log into DotLoop, if you didn't know what email address that was. However, if you see, if I hover over it, it does not give me the option to change that email address. The only way to change it is by scrolling to the bottom, and there's two links: change password and change email address. That's the only way to change this. Okay? Very, very, very important. Your NRDS number, your NRDS ID. Easy way to find it if it's not already entered. It has to be absolutely necessary for each and every one of you to have that number in there. And if you happen to not know that number, easy breezy. Google knows it all. So all you need to do is Google how to find my NRDS number. And it's going to be this link that is reg.realtor.org. Click on it. And you have two options to enter your last name and email address that you use to sign in to DBPR, or you can enter your last name and your license number and click on Get NRDS Number, and it's going to pull that information for you. So again, it is very important to have that number entered here, because this will verify your status with the board, and it will give you access to the most recent documents, the most recent updates to any documents that the Florida Association of Realtors does. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going to switch to a different view really quick just to show you. But if you go into your templates under documents, the very last tab is the Florida Interactive Forms. Now, my NER number, it's inactive because I haven't paid my dues to the Association of Realtors because I don't practice real estate anymore. So if I click on that, it's going to tell me that my number is not valid. Okay, so for you, you're just going to be able to click on that tab and see all of those forms without a problem, which is very convenient. It's very important to be able to see all of the updated forms. Okay. Continuing down the row, company name, again, job title, tagline, if you want to use any, what I'm referring to as tagline is your slogan. So if you go into your profile in myKW and you have entered a slogan in there, I would probably use the same for tagline as well. Phone number and country. Another very important section would be the time zone. Every DotLoop document that has been signed, it's time stamped, so it is very important to have the correct time zone selected for if there's anyone who's just moving into Florida and does not know, we are in Central Standard Time Zone. So please make sure you go ahead and select that one in. As far as home address, I do not see any reason for you to enter your home address into DotLoop. On the contrary, I always recommend leave it blank. No one needs to know where you live. I don't want people coming knocking on my front door in the middle of the night asking me questions about transactions. So I leave that spot blank. User role, you can select exactly what your role would be. Realtor, transaction coordinator, brokerage manager, whatever it is, you can go ahead and select that. For most of you, will be realtor/agent. Okay, and the email notification, it's entirely up to you if you want to turn it on. It's like a newsletter that comes and you can select bi-weekly or monthly. A little helpful tips that you can find in there, so feel free to subscribe to it if you wish. Okay. The next section up top, and I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I made a change to the user role here. It was left blank before. And what I forgot to do is click Save, which means it's going to revert it back to my previous changes. So as I mentioned before, every time you make a change to a page, please make sure you go and save it before you move on. Okay. Document preferences. A little overview here, a little preview of the changes to the documents, what they're going to look like whenever you're typing. In this case, I've selected a serif, italic, blue at 10 pt for font size. You'll see you don't have a huge choice, so really it's actually kind of limited, but that's okay. As long as it stands out to you, that's perfectly fine. Now, I've selected the blue to show you that you have different color preferences, and I haven't tested it yet myself, but I was told that the blue actually, it's very light when it prints, so it's a little hard to read. Feel free to test it for yourself if it works for you or not. If you think it's too light, just switch back to black. Just having it italic, for me, it's enough of an indicator, enough of a visual notice to make sure that I know where the changes are. Plus, I'm pretty familiar with the contracts. Alrighty, upgrade, you're already all upgraded to the premium membership, so you don't have to worry about that last tab. Our entire market center is subscribed to that one. Alrighty, back to the top. We previewed all of my account settings. We're going to move forward to the templates. So you have three options for templates. You have your document templates, you have your tasks templates, and you have your clauses. Now, under documents, all of you should have the Florida interactive forms. All of you should have the vacant land loops, the residential loops, the condo loops, both for listing and buying side. And all of you should have the personal documents. You'll see that I actually have a few extra ones, like the FAR bar, the CRISP 14, the Fannie Mae, and the test. Those are templates that I've created myself to help me stay organized. For instance, I'm going to delete that one and I'll create a new one. How do you do that? I'm under Documents. I'm going to go and click on the new folder to the right. I I have to give it a name, so let's name it. I actually just got, yesterday, an agent came and asked me about a VA contract. And I've never heard of a VA contract. I've written numerous VA deals, but all I've done in the past is do a regular contract and attach the VA addendum to the contract corresponding. CRISP and FARBAR, both of them have the VA addendum. However, the agent insisted that she wants the VA contract, and we were able to find it in PAR MLS. Well, I guess whenever a property gets foreclosed by the VA, which doesn't happen very often, they're very diligent trying to prevent that from happening, but it happens from time to time, so they have their own VA documents. So I'm going to create a folder for my VA contracts. Okay. And click Create Folder. Now, the folder is empty. I haven't added any documents to it. And don't forget, we're working under templates. Pretty self-explanatory, right? So what I'm going to do is go and add a form. And now I have the option to add it from templates. So I can pick from in here, or I can pick it from my computer. I want to pick it from a computer. And for a second, I actually have to download those documents because they're still in my email from yesterday. Okay, so this was one of them. I'm pretty sure this was just the addenda, and this was the second one. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my loop, pick the documents from the computer. Here are the two that I need. Click Open. Now I have those two documents in my templates in DotLoop. That way, if I ever need to write another deal for a VA foreclosure, I can just go and pull those documents from my loops. I don't have to go and upload them every single time. Now, whenever you're uploading documents to DotLoop from your computer, the only rule is that they have to be PDF, which is not a big deal really, because nowadays you can convert just about any document to a PDF format. So if you don't know how to do that, contact me after the class. I'll show you, but it's pretty easy to do it. And like I said, you can convert just about any document to a PDF. So that means you can upload just about anything to DotLoop. Okay, I'm going to preview the two documents. So the first one is the residential purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to rename it because this number doesn't mean anything to me. And the way I'm going to rename it is by clicking on those three little dots and selecting rename. So this one was residential sales purchase contract or purchase and sell agreement. Okay. And the second one was the VA questionnaire. Same thing. I'm gonna go and rename it. And ask me to spell that one. There we go. And just click enter. All right. Now we have the documents in here, which is great. However, if I'm going to be writing a contract, a VA foreclosure contracts pretty often, I'm going to be a little frustrated having to go through, let's say, the questionnaire. And every time I have to put a box for, add a text box with the buyer name. Add another text box with the buyer's address. Add a text box for the co-buyer. Doing it once is fine, but having to do it every time when you write a deal could be very time consuming and very overwhelming, right? So I want this document to auto-populate itself. I don't want to have to go and do this thing each and every time. That could be done, absolutely, and I'll show you exactly how. Now, as always, make sure you go and save your changes. And if you're going to be creating anything like that, always make sure you make it in templates. If I go and do those exact same steps into a loop, those steps will be good only for that one particular loop. But if I make changes to a document that is in the templates, then those changes will be reflected in each and every future loop. So again, back to that questionnaire. I have my boxes. Now for right now, they're just a text box. That's it. The loop doesn't know that we're asking for a buyer name to be filled in that text box. So what I'm going to do is go and assign it, or I can label it. Either way. So this text box is going to be buyer 1. And it's going to be assigned obviously to the buyer. This text box here will be, let's see if we can find buyer 2. Now I did not see a buyer 2 from the drop down menu, so what I did is click on more, and now I'm going to type buyer, and I'll see if I have option for buyer 2 or just one buyer. It looks like it's just one buyer. So I'm going to put the name and see how it appears a drop down menu next to the name for buyer 1 or buyer 2. This one is going to be for my buyer 2. I'm going to apply. And who's it going to be assigned to? It's going to be assigned again to the buyer. And you can see you have quite a few options of who to assign it to. You can assign it to the listing agent, buying agent, brokerage, landlord, escrow, inspector, home warranty, loan officers, and so on and so on. So I'm just going and assigning the different fields. That way the loop knows what to auto-populate it with. As long as you do it once in the templates section of the loops, then you can use that document and have it auto-populate in all of the other fields, which is very convenient, very easy. Okay, next section will be the buyer's address. I'm going to go and put a label. Now, I don't see anything about buyer's address, so what I'm going to do is click on More again and search again for the word buyer up top and scroll down until I find full address for buyer 1. Apply. Next box will be full address, but this time I don't want it for buyer 1, so I'm going to have to go under More again. Buyer. Full address for buyer 2 and apply the changes. All you have to do is go through the rest of the list, put text boxes, and they're going to assign those text boxes, label them so the system knows how to populate. You could also have all this auto-populate as well. Now, I don't know if there's any details in the loops for pre-qualified, yes or no, but you can just put a little checkbox for yes and add a checkbox for no and add 2 text boxes. One of them will say yes and one of them is going to say no. So whenever you're ready to fill in this document, all you have to do is select one of the 2 options and you're all set. Yes or no. Easy breezy. Okay. See, whenever it turns into a 4-way arrow like this, you can click on it and hold it down and drag it around to whatever spot you want. Or if it turns into a diagonal 2-way arrow, you can shrink it or you can stretch it. Okay. So it gives you an idea of what to do with this section. Now, text boxes are not the only thing you can add to a document. Actually, even whenever I fill in questionnaires like that on behalf of a buyer or a seller, I like to put their signatures at the bottom. That way, they verify that all the information filled in is correct. So what I'm going to do is add a signature. And I have to assign it to the buyer. I'm going to add another signature and assign that one to the buyer as well. Now here you can select buyer 1 and buyer 2. The system will know automatically to assign one to the one, the other to the other. So you don't have to worry about that. Now I have 2 pages, so I want to make sure that the client previews both pages, so I'm going to add initials on both pages as well for buyer 1 and an initial for buyer 2. I hope you're following up with me here. That will save you so much time and it's going to make your life so much easier in the long run. You only have to do it once and from there everything else will auto-populate for you. Close date. You can put a date box. Now it will prompt you to enter a number, but you can just click on the side and leave it blank. And whenever you're ready to fill it out, then you can select from the drop-down menu the actual closing date. Alrighty, that's just about it for making changes to a template. And in a little bit, when we actually move to create a loop, I'll show you that this will auto-populate and it will work pretty neat for the future. Now, I already said that the Florida interactive forms do include all of the approved forms and all of the up-to-date forms, but different organizations have different packages they like to use. That's why I'm showing you how to do this, so you can create your own specific folders with your own personal documents, the ones that you want to use. VA is just one of those organizations that have a specific set of documents they want to use. Fannie Mae, it's another one. Each individual builder has their own contracts. So it's a good thing for you to know how to go and make changes to the templates. That way you can do it once and forget about it and have it ready for next time. It just helps you being more proficient when you're preparing offers or listing agreements or anything like that. Okay, so we added a new folder. We made changes to a document. Now, this is my VA contracts folder. So far, I have the VA required purchase agreement and I have the questionnaire, but I'll also want to attach my contract, whichever I use, either the crisp or the far bar, with the appropriate addendum. The way I'm going to do that is go to Add Document, which is going to open this drop down for me, and add a form. And this time I'm going to select to add the form from templates. When you're adding a form to a template folder that you've created yourself, I always want you to refer back to the Florida interactive forms. Always. Now, I showed you that mine doesn't work, but yours will work just fine, so always go back to your Florida interactive forms and select a form from there. All you have to do is search into the little box for the form you specifically want, select it, and click on Add Documents. I did select the template to add. Okay. There we go. Okay. So now those three documents were added to this particular VA contract folder that we just created. For you though, now I picked from a random folder my documents. For you, always refer back to the Florida interactive forms. Alrighty, next one will be tasks. There's several task lists that were pre-made for you, like the vacant land buying loop, vacant land listing loop, condo listing and buying, residential listing and buying. All those were created by the Market Center, and all of them are pre-filled already with specific set of tasks. And by task, I mean, let's look, for instance, the residential buying loop. Here are the tasks. Upload a pending sold MLS. Upload the fully executed contract and addenda. upload the buyer signed seller disclosure, upload the earnest money deposit, and upload the brokerage relationship disclosure. This task list, this little checklist, it's what's required from you to upload to the system to provide to the company for your file to pass compliance. Very important. If your file doesn't pass compliance, we cannot pay you. So make sure your files are submitted for compliance. We'll see in a little bit exactly how you do that. The rule of thumb when submitting files for compliance. Your buying contracts should be submitted for compliance at least a week before closing. That way you have enough time for your documents to be reviewed, enough time for the DA to be created, and enough time for you to make any changes if required. That's if you are representing the buyer side. If you are a listing agent, and this is if you just taken a listing, you have about 72 hours to a week time from the time when the listing agreement was signed by the seller to upload all the documents required to the loop and submit it for review. So up to a week for listings after the listing agreement was taken, and up to a week before closing for the buying side. Now, I see Leslie has a question, so I'm going to open her microphone for a second. Go ahead, hon.
Hey, what if we're transferring over and the listings went in weeks ago?
You still have to submit your files for review. We need to have a copy of all those documents. That way, if we get audited, we don't get in trouble because we don't have them.
Okay, I was just talking about the time frame. I mean, it was weeks ago, so just upload them now?
Yep, just upload them as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Alrighty, so if you look through the list, for instance, the residential listing loop, you have to upload the active MLS printout. You have to upload the fully executed listing agreement, and you have to upload the executed seller's disclosure. Now, the fully executed listing agreement, please make sure it has the appropriate brokerage relationship disclosure built into it. I don't have the forms in front of me right now, but if you look on the second or third page of the listing agreement, there should be a section that says single agent, and then continues on the next page, says single agent with the consent to transition to transaction broker. And the last section of that agreement says transaction broker. And it outlines your duties and responsibilities. But it has to have all those three things in it. And I always recommend that whenever you take the listing agreement, just have them sign the consent to transition to transaction broker, because we're all striving to get our listings sold with our buyers so we can get paid both sides, right? That's the best case possible, the best scenario. So we all strive to that. So have yourself prepared by having them sign the listing agreement that contains the single agent disclosure with the consent to transition to a transaction broker. Just save yourself the hassle of going and explaining why you have to transition in the middle of a transaction. Now, If your seller says that he does not want you representing the buyer, that's a different story. Then go and find a listing agreement that only says single agent in it. You can do that. But if the seller doesn't have a problem with you finding the buyer, then make sure you get the one that has the transition into it, the consent to transition. So go through those lists and get familiar with what's required from you for your file to pass compliance. Now, you could always go and create your own personal checklist as well, just like we did with the documents. I have one here that's called personal, where I've uploaded 2 tasks. One of them is to have the upload the airport zone disclosure and upload a survey. Those are my personal tasks. I've created those for myself. I personally like to keep all of my documents into the loop. I don't just keep whatever it's required, a contract, the earnest money deposit, and so on. I keep everything in the loop. I upload the surveys, I upload the inspection reports, I upload the termite report, I upload everything into DotLoop. That way, I don't have to keep a file at home, or if someone calls me and asks a question, I don't have to dig through tons of documentation or tons of emails trying to find the right one. I stay pretty organized. Most of you know I'm a very high C, so this is totally my element where everything has its place and everything is in its place. So you can go and absolutely create your personal checklist the way you like it. Couple of other lists you'll find here is the close transaction checklist. You do actually are required after closing to upload a fully executed HUD, or what they're calling it right now is closing disclosure, a CD. So you need to upload a copy of the CD to the loop and copy of the commission checks. Now, I'm not exactly sure why they want a copy of the commission checks, but I'll find out for you. Maybe it's just for record keeping or something. So, but again, create a new task list simply by clicking on the plus task list, give it a name, and then go and start adding tasks to it. You can give it, assign different dates. So when is it due? Is it due today, tomorrow, this week, next week? After another task? Which one? After this task, after that task? However you want to organize it, you can do that. Okay. And the last section will be the clauses. If there is a language that you find yourself constantly using into your contracts, I was saying earlier, about 95% of my business was VA. I'm a military spouse. I have a lot of military contacts, so I'll write a lot of VA contracts. So I always try to get the most money possible for my buyers. And by law, the maximum amount you can ask from a seller to contribute towards closing costs on the buyer side, it's 4%. So I would use this language over here at just about any and every one of my contracts. Sellers to credit buyers up to 4% of the purchase price towards buyers' prepaid items, escrows, and closing costs. It just encompasses everything. I've learned from experience. I've learned from my mistakes In the past, this would just say seller to contribute up to 4% towards closing costs. Well, first of all, 4% towards closing costs. 4% of what? Is it 4% of the purchase price or 4% of the total closing costs? So it was a little confusing, so I made sure it cleared up, made sure it included the prepaid items, the escrows, and so on. Same with this language over here. That was for my short sales. I wrote a few short sales, and for those of you who have done short sales, you know that it could take a very, very, very long time to get a short sale approval, especially if the process hasn't been started yet. So there was this deal where we waited for a short sale approval for about 6 months, which was beyond the acceptable, but I put the language that all time periods in obligation will commence from the date of the short sale approval, which opened a lot of doors for me. Let's say you need to do a termite inspection, which you absolutely should do it on every property, or at least you should advise your buyer to do it on every property. Then that inspection is only good for about 30 days. Then you have to go and re-inspect the property. Well, if that inspection is only good for 30 days, and my inspection period is the first about 2 weeks of the contract, but I don't receive the short sale approval at least 3 months after the effective date, what happens with my WDO? It's not valid anymore, so I have to pay, or my buyer has to pay for another one, which makes for a very unhappy client. So we want to avoid that. That's why I incorporate this language into my contracts. And since it is a pretty long thing to just remember, I've just saved it as a clause, a new clause, and all I have to do is start typing it, and the system will auto-populate the rest for me. Super convenient, again, and easy to use. So that's all under templates. Now, we've covered quite a bit, so I'm going to open the microphones at this point for everyone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them at this time. I see some of you have muted themselves. So, is there any questions? No questions whatsoever? Great, I guess you guys are getting it all in. Okay, well, I'll continue then. Next tab up top will be the People's tab, and we have the trusted service providers and we have our contacts. The trusted service providers are actually something they added quite recently, and I still haven't found, I guess, the proper way to use it, if there's such a thing as a proper way. You can go and set up your trusted service providers, for instance, home inspectors, by simply clicking on the appropriate category and clicking on Add Yours. So then you can go through a list of few suggested ones that we have a relationship with as a company, or you can go and add your own by simply adding their full name and their email address. And afterwards you can share that list with your client. So that's how you use this section. Now, the second section, contacts, For some of you, I spoke with KW International Tech Support last week, and they were experiencing some technical issue with this particular section here. So you might be seeing some problems with it. Just be patient. They're working on it. But where in a perfect world, Market Leader and DotLoop are integrated systems. They work hand in hand. So if you add a contact into Market Leader, it will automatically transfer into DotLoop, and vice versa. If you add a contact into DotLoop, it will appear as a new lead automatically into your Market Leader. Again, recently the system has been having a little bit of a difficulty syncing with each other, but they're working on fixing it. So you should be seeing a lot of your contacts from Market Leader into that list. That way, if you start a transaction or start a new loop for any of those people, you don't have to go through a list and look for them. You can just select and it will auto-populate their email address and all of the rest of the information. Next section, tasks. We already talked about some of the tasks in the templates, but here you can just have a quick overview of all the tasks that were assigned to you, all of the ones that are overdue, a list of all the tasks that have been completed. So some tasks that could be assigned to you are, for instance, the lead-based pane disclosure addendum I was talking about earlier that needs to be signed by the listing agent. So that will appear as a task to you. And a complete list of all the tasks, due, overdue, and so on. Next section, loops. Now, a lot of you, if you've been in business for a little bit, you have quite a few of loops. And as you keep scrolling, they'll keep coming. Now, it can become quite overwhelming and it can become a mess looking at all those loops. So what I do with mine is I go into my filters. Okay, Dana is asking if the tasks in DotLoop are connected to the task, I'm guessing, in Market Leader. Dana, I'm going to open your microphone just to confirm that I understand the question. Is that it? Or maybe she doesn't have a microphone. Okay, yes, she said that that is the question. If DotLoop tasks do show on your Market Leader homepage, the answer to that question is no, they do not. They only show in DotLoop. So you actually have to come into DotLoop and preview those tasks. So the only way the two systems work together is by sharing contacts but not sharing tasks or anything else. Okay, back to the loops. Obviously, I do not want to look through this many loops. Therefore, I go and I archive a lot of them. So afterwards, I can just filter which ones I want to see. Do I want to see everything or do I just want to see a few? I don't want to see any of the archived. I don't want to see any of the solds. Click filter and look at that. Now I have a blank, clean home screen. So if at any point you notice that a loop is missing, because I get that phone call all the time. I created the loop and now I can't find it. It's gone. It's gone. It disappeared. I deleted it somehow. You cannot delete a loop. You could only archive it. Once a document is uploaded into DotLoop, you cannot delete it from there. You could only archive it. Once a loop is created, you cannot delete it. You can only archive it. That's a safe switch for the system, so you don't accidentally wipe out everything and lose all of your information. It's just you can't do it because the system would not allow you to do it. And I'll show you exactly where you can go and change the status so you can archive your loops. But if you're missing a loop, go under your filters up top and just click on Clear All and click Filter, and that will display absolutely all of your loops. Okay. Then you can go and remove the ones you do not want to see again. So let's go ahead and create a new loop. Simply click on the plus circle, or if you are in a list view, click on Create a Loop, whichever works for you. Give it a name, and the recommendation is always name it after the street address. That way they can connect your loops with your Greensheets easily and you can get paid faster. So we're going to give it a name. And you'll notice that as I'm typing the address, a Google Maps is showing me different possibilities for this address. And as more of the address I enter, the more it narrows down the available options. Okay, so here's the option I was looking for. So all I want to do is just click on it, and it's going to finish the address for me. Now, as far as selecting a template, you can go and select one of those pre-made templates, but I would suggest leave it blank and upload the documents you think you need. Don't rely on the templates. They're not very accurate. For instance, I'm going to go and create this loop and show you what I mean. Okay. Now, if I go back into templates, and let's say I selected to upload the residential buying folder, if I'm a brand new agent and I see, okay, the templates show I need the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, the contract, the seller disclosure, and a brokerage relationship disclosure. That's it. I have it all. I submit my offer. Well, that's not all you need to submit an offer. So it is very misleading. Just because the contract is in the loop doesn't mean that all the addendas are in there too. And the addendas have the contract. So you can't just submit a contract without the addendas in it. So don't rely solely on those templates. I would suggest create your loop, leave the selected template blank, and proceed that way. And upload the documents you think you need, not the documents the templates tell you you need. I'm going to click on the loop, and this is what a loop looks like. You have your documents, you have your local service providers, and you have your people, and at the very bottom you have your tasks. Now, before you start doing anything to this loop, I want you to go into the Details tab. The way you do that is by clicking the name of the loop or View Details. Either one of those links will work. So I'm just going to click on the name. And this is the loop's details page. Follow it step by step and fill in as much information as you can. That's what will allow for DotLoop to auto-populate your contracts in your documents. You can upload a photo if you choose to do so. Okay. That's what allows the little photo to show up inside the circle. So for a visual person like me, having pictures of the outside of the house was pretty helpful finding the right property. Select the transaction type. Is this a purchase, listing, for sale, for lease, real estate other, or just other? Let's say it's a purchase. Select the loop status. Pre-offer, under contract, sold, or archive. So here's how you can archive your loops by selecting a loop status. Now, before you can select the loop status, you have to go and select the transaction type. But when you select each and every one of those transaction types, have the option of being archived. For instance, if you look under purchase, the loop status giving me the option for pre-offer, under contract, sold, or archived. The listing for sale option gives me pre-listing, private listing, active listings, under contract. So it gives me a little more options to pick from. So depending on what you select into the transaction type, the loop status will give you different options. But the one option you have for each and every one of those, it's archived. Okay, so we'll say that this is purchase and this is a pre-offer. I'm already using the property address as the loop name. Next, I have to add my people. And who would be my people? Who are those people? Those would be everyone involved into the transaction. The listing agent, the buyer, the seller, the brokerage, the lender, the title company. Anyone and everyone who need access to this transaction has to be added to it. So I'm going to go and add a buyer. His name, it's going to be, his role in this transaction is going to be a buyer. Add a person. I'm going to add another person. She's my second buyer. Now, if they're going to be signing the document, you will need 2 separate email addresses for each and every one of them. So one email address for John Smith, one email address for Jane Smith. So those are my buyers. I'm going to keep adding people. I'm going to have John Doe. It's going to be my seller. I'm going to add another. She's going to be my other seller. I'm going to add a listing agent. Let's see, I'm going to add Dana here. If I manage to spell it. And Dana, it's actually in my database already. So as soon as I started typing her name, it gave me a drop-down option to select exactly which data I want to add. So, and it already has her email address, so I don't have to flip between the two systems and try to find the appropriate email address for Dana. It will automatically give me one. So let's say she's going to be my listing agent, and I'm going to add her. Now, I have not selected a role for myself, so I'm already added automatically into the loop, but I have to go and select my role. So I'm going to be the buying agent. The two admins for Keller Williams you see, those are the people who do compliance for us, so you cannot change any of those sections, and I would suggest not to. Just leave it as it is. But you can continue adding. Now, we have the admin for Keller Williams Realty, but we don't have the brokerage added. So what I'm going to do is go and add Keller Williams Realty Emerald Coast. And the role of this one is going to be the buying broker, and add it. So you can continue adding as many people as necessary to your loop. The more you add, the more fields will be auto-populated for you. Keep scrolling down the list. Property address. It should be already mostly auto-populated for you, just because you entered it up here. You still need to go and add, at the very least, the property ID, the parcel ID. That one appears on a lot of documents. So I'm going to go to the county website and get my tax ID from there. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste it into DotLoop. I'm going to keep scrolling down. If I know any of the financials, I'm going to fill that one in as well. Offer days, contract info, whichever type of information you have, it can hurt you to go and fill in as much as possible. Legal description. It appears on a lot of forms. So I'm going to go and copy the legal description as well and paste it in here. And I'm going to stop at that and just go to the bottom and click Save. Always always remember to save before you return to the previous page. I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to click back to Loop right here in the top. Okay, so now I have my people, and you can see they've been added to the front page as well. Everyone has an assigned role: buying agent, buyer, seller, listing agent, buying broker, and so on. Now I want to load my template for the tasks. So I'm going to click on Load Template so I know what I'm going to need for my file to pass compliance. So what I want to upload is residential buying loop. Click Add. So here are the things I would need. I would need the pending sold MLS. I'll need the fully executed contract. I would need the seller property disclosure, the earnest money receipt, and the brokerage relationship disclosure. Now that I know what I need for compliance, I'm going to go and start adding my documents. And I'm going to add it from either computer or templates. I'm going to go and upload that, the one we were working on earlier was the questionnaire. So I'm going to go and upload that one to show you that all the changes we made into the templates will work quite nicely here in an actual loop where it's going to auto-populate everything for us. I'm going to go through my Florida interactive forms. I'm going to find the appropriate contract. I'm going to find all the addendas, everything I need, and I'm going to add it. Okay. Moment of truth. Now, if I click on the questionnaire, a little autofill box will pop out. It's going to ask me who is buyer 1, John Smith, buyer 2, Jane Smith. It just asks me to preview the information and confirm it. And click autofill. Pretty cool, huh? John Smith, here it is. Jane Smith, here she is. It's already auto-populated. If I've actually entered a buyer's address, those fields would have been auto-populated as well. I did not enter it into the details. That's why the system doesn't know what to put there. The first field, it's assigned to Jane or John. Whoever signed initials first, the other field is going to be open for the next person. Are they pre-qualified? Yes or no? Just a checkbox, whichever applies. Closing date, I can go and select my closing date. And again, they can go and sign in here and be done with it. So how much time could I save by having everything pre-filled beforehand? I saved the changes before I exited, so now it's going to ask me if I want to share the document. Personal preference again. I do not like to share any documents until I finish the entire package. I don't like sending, okay, here's the contract. 15 minutes later, here's the addenda. 10 minutes later, here's the single brokerage disclosure. 15 minutes later, oh, here's another addenda. I don't like to do that. I like to have the whole package finished, then select all the documents that need signatures and share them all at once with the appropriate party. So now, if I did have an email address for John or Jane Smith, or for John or Jane Doe, their names would have been checkmarked, and they have the options to sign. And then I just share it with them. Because I didn't have email address for those two, it was left unchecked. But again, as soon as I enter an email address for them, the system will automatically know to send the documents to them if the names and signatures are needed in the contract. Once you have all of your documents ready and signed, once you've completed the entire checklist here, your file will be ready for compliance. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the very top. You're going to click Submit to Review. You're going to select which folder you want to submit, because you can have more than one folder. Let's say you're representing both sides. Then you're going to have a buying folder and you're going to have a listing folder. You're going to select the type of it. Don't bother putting any messages for the admins. Apparently they don't know where to find those messages, so they're not reading them. So just select the folder and the type and click Submit. And that's all it takes. It's for your file to go to compliance. submit to review, select the folder, and send it out. If you're missing anything, you're going to be receiving an email and a message from the admin telling you exactly what you're missing. It could be something as simple as page 3 of the seller property disclosure doesn't have initial. They can return the document for something like that. Or it can be something you're missing a document altogether. So if you receive anything like that, you're going to see this red flag here, and this message box will change color to a much lighter red, almost pinkish looking. All you have to do is click on it and read the message. So if you ever need to send a message to the admins, do it through here. The chances that they're going to read it, it's actually a little better than if you send it in here, because apparently they do not know where those messages are going. Now, cool thing that will help you stay on track with your loops is, do you see this gray circle here up top? And if you hover over it, it says 0% of tasks completed. Well, let's go and complete a couple of tasks. See how the circle started filling in with red? And the more you click on, the more that circle it's filling in until it's completely red, which means all the tasks have been approved, which means you're done with your package. Pretty cool feature to help you stay on track. Now, Leslie, it's asking if you have to resubmit just what is incorrect or the entire package all over again. I suggest you submit the entire thing all over again, because if you just submit what's missing, they're not going to remember that. They've already seen the rest. So they're going to return the package all over again. So just submit the whole folder all over again. Save yourself the trouble. Okay? Let's see. As I said earlier, once a document is added to a loop or to DotLoop, it cannot be deleted. It could only be archived. And the way you do that is by going to those little dots on the side and clicking on Archive. If you've archived a document and you think that you will need to use it in the future, just click on Show Archived. Find the document you're referring to, click on the 3 dots, and you can unarchive it. Pretty cool. That way you never lose a document. It always stays with you in the loop. Now, if you click on it, you see you have more options here, like make a copy, history, print, download, signature verification, and so on and so on. You can explore those different options, or if you're having a problem with anything, you can just give me a call and I will try to answer to the best of my knowledge. Or you can go and watch those tutorials in the training center up here. I will open the microphones again at this point because this will pretty much cover everything in DotLoop, and we have about 30 minutes to go over Greensheets. So at this point, is there any questions from anyone?
Okay. All right.
Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm hearing background noise, but I don't hear any questions. If that's the case, we're just gonna move on to the Greensheets. The way to do that is we're gonna go back to myKW, And under the Technology tab, I'm going to select Greensheet. Okay. At this point, you're going to see the main dashboard. You have different tabs up top. You can see your initiated Greensheets, your submitted ones, if you have any. Now keep attention to this little disclaimer here that the data only represents the last 180 days. So if you've had transactions that have been closed past 180 days, you would not see the green sheet any longer. You can see your accepted ones if you had any. TNC stands for transaction not closed. Returned, DA created, and a list of all of them put together. So we're going to go ahead and create a green sheet, and let me just clarify what a green sheet is. It's a summary of where all the money are going, who's getting what portion of the money. It's just a little clarification, that way the accountants know how to cut the checks. If you want to get paid at the closing table, you'll absolutely have to have your green sheet submitted. As I said, same with the transaction, at least a week before closing. You need to have your green sheet submitted as well. And once it has been approved and once your file has passed compliance, a DA or a disbursement authorization form will be created and it will be placed in the corresponding loop. So at this point, you will have to go into the loop, download the DA, and send it to the title company so they can cut your check at the closing table. Alrighty, so I clicked on create a green sheet, and now you have to follow the steps one by one. Don't skip a step. Don't go to the next section. The whole green sheet was designed to be followed step by step, because if you skip something and move to the next section, your numbers can completely change. So I'm going to do a simple one. Are you the listing agent? Yes or no? Now, if I answer yes, the next question would be, is this listing in KWLS, which is the Keller Williams listing system? And if it's not, then it's going to ask me to go and put it in there. Now, I don't have any listings, so I'm not going to do that because it's going to get us just sitting in a loop. So I'm going to answer no to that question. Is this a KW listing? No, it is not. Another rule of thumb for you, and make sure you write this down because I've been getting a lot of phone calls lately about it. If you're doing a deal with another Keller Williams agent, so one of you represents the buyer, the other one represents the seller, only one green sheet could be created. And it's always the listing agent that needs to create the green sheet. Again, if both agents are Keller Williams agents, only the listing agent creates the green sheet, and he or she has to fill it in for both sides, for both parties. All they're going to do is put agent A themselves and agent B, the other Keller Williams agent. And I'll show you in a little bit exactly what I mean as agent A and B. Now, I'm going to follow the Greensheet step by step. What type is it? Residential or commercial? What's the contract date? Just pick something. What's the closing date? Transaction type. And I'm only focusing on the fields that are highlighted in red. Would I like you to fill in everything? That would be nice, but we don't need it. It's not necessary. As long as you fill in the red, the system will accept it. So that's the only thing I'm going to be focusing on. Transaction, what type is it? Listing, buyer, both, or other. This is a buyer sale. Now, did you notice how there was a field over here that switched as soon as I click buyer sale? Now, if I select listing sale, that field's going to move from the bottom to the top. That's what I meant when I said that the system was designed to be followed step by step and you can't skip steps, because if you do, you run the possibility of entering wrong data in a wrong field and your numbers not matching up. So this is a buyer sale on a property. That was a resale. I'm just picking random stuff here. Put an address. The address we used for the loop was okay. Next section. What was the sale price? And is the commission a percentage or a flat fee? And if you select percentage, you have to select the exact percentage. If you select flat, you have to put a number. Again, depending on what you choose, the fields change. And as soon as I put a percentage in here, the system auto-calculated for me exactly how much that percentage is from the sales price. Now, this is before everything comes out, before your company split comes out, before the royalty, the company dollars, if you've done any referrals, and so on and so on. So, next section. What was the buyer's name? John and Jane Smith. Next section. What was the seller's name? John and Jane Doe. Next section. Here's where I was referring earlier, agent A and agent B. If you are the listing agent, and if this is a Keller Williams transaction between two Keller Williams agents, you will, as the listing agent, will be agent A, and agent B, you're going to put in that second field. The way you do that is by clicking on this little magnifying glass, searching for the other agent. Earlier I used Dana, so let's try finding her again. So there she is. Select, and now her name will be appearing as agent B. At this point, you just have to call that other agent that you're doing the green sheet for and ask them, are you capped on royalty and are you capped on company dollars? Yes or no? That way you know what to put when the system asks you. So I'm going to go through agent A from top to bottom, and you see there's quite a bit of information that needs to be filled in, but again, just follow the steps one by one without skipping. What's the agent role? Buyer specialist, listing in individual agent, listing specialist, or lead agent. The buyer specialist, the listing specialist, and the lead agent, those are for teams. Most of you, if you're not on a team, then you are just an individual agent. Type, what type is it? Buyer sell. Now, it only gives me a buyer sell or inside because up top, I told it that this is a buyer transaction. So if I were to tell the system that was a listing transaction, then I would have a seller sale in this section and not the buyer one. What's my agency? Buyer or duo. The listing unit field, it's locked because I'm not the listing agent, I'm the buyer agent. Sales unit will always be 1 unless you're on a team. If you're on a team, depending on what your split is with the team leader, both of your units, both of your sales units or both of your listing units have to add up to 1. So let's say you split 50-50 with the team agent. This side will have 0.5, the other side will have 0.5. But it always has to add up to 1. And if you notice as we go down the road, the numbers will keep changing. That was the total commission, 3% of $350,000. Do you own outside referral percentage to anyone? If you do, put the percentage in here. So let's say the standard 25%. At this point, a little pop-out menu will jump saying that referral, you need to enter the referral data in the outside referral selection below. Otherwise, it will not allow you to submit your green sheet. This is what they're talking about. You need to come and fill in this section here. The brokerage company name, the agent, the dollar amount, the tax ID, the address, the city, zip code, all this needs to be filled out if you put a number in that little outside referral percentage section. If there were any market center approved concessions made to the buyer or seller, they need to come in this little box here. If any admin fees need to be paid or anything like that. And here's the split with the market center. If you are not capped on company dollar, then you have to select the option that says split with MC, with the market center. If you are capped on company dollars, then 100% goes to the agent. If you're not sure if you're capped or if you're close to capped, just call Rose and she can tell you for sure. She's the only one that has access to that information. So split with the MC. And what's your commission split? Is it 70-30? If you're part of a team, you might have different split. Teams usually split 85-15 for the individual agent. Team leaders split at 70-30. So whatever it is. Are you capped on royalty? Yes or no? It's always 6%. So let's say no. And the numbers keep getting smaller and smaller. If there's any other referrals that you need to mention. This whole section here, the red section, this is for donations. So if you want to donate anything to KW Cares, KW Kids Can, the KW Family Fund, or the Bald Scholarship Fund, this is the place to do so. Let me explain what the difference between the four is. KW Cares, this is a company fund. So every time there's a disaster or agent is in trouble, we tap into that fund and try to help that particular agent. Whenever Ivan hit and there were a lot of casualties, we used the fund to help families. On local level, last year we had lightning strike one of our agent's houses in Navarre, and most of his home burned down, so we used that fund to help him. So that's what the KW Cares is for. The KW Kids Can, we talked about it earlier today during the team meeting if you were there. If not, they use this fund to, let me make sure I get it right. They use the fund currently to raise enough money to train enough professionals to teach the Quantum Leap class to kids who are struggling, kids who cannot make life decisions as far as career opportunities, as far as education and stuff like that. So people are being trained all over the country to go to the local schools and to the local kids and train them on the Quantum Leap course, which gives them a perspective, gives them motivation, and teaches them how to be leaders, really, how to be productive in any field or career they choose. KW Family Fund, that was created a couple of years ago. Keller Williams tried to open an office in your territory that was, I don't know exactly the whole story, but that territory had this real estate company that was very dominant, and they knew Keller Williams' reputation of conquering the market. So they got scared, and to prevent us from taking over the market, they decided that they're going to stop paying commissions to Keller Williams agents, or they're going to only pay them $1 commission on every closing. Well, we can't live on $1 commission. Our families can't survive on $1 from a closing. So the KW Family Fund was created to counter that problem we were having. So that fund ensured that all of our agents will be paid for their transaction, even if the other agents did not want to do it. The other company did not want to pay them. We paid our own agents. Funny thing, actually a few of that competitive companies' agents felt very bad for the policy, so they quit their company and joined Keller Williams, which was a very good sign, show that we're doing something right. The other thing is that whole issue has been resolved ever since. We had a lot of lawyer help and involvement, lawsuits and everything, but the fund was kept because that same situation was arising when some other places. So that's the KW Family Fund. And the Bald Scholarship is pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully some of you have gone through both. If not, hopefully you will. It's a great class that could change your entire mindset. It is a little expensive to go to. It's $800 in advance, so not all the agents can afford it upfront, but we know that the results are there. So the fund was created to help those who really want to go but just can't afford it at the moment. So that's all the donations you can make here. The buyer's home warranty. If you want to purchase a home warranty, you can take it out of the check at this point. Agent concessions to the buyer or seller. Now you have the MC approved concessions, and then you have the agent concessions that were not approved. So the difference between the two is the MC approved concessions. First of all, obviously they have to be approved by the market center. They're coming out of the total check of the total commission, where the concessions that are only approved by the agent are coming from their portion of the check after the royalty has been taken out and after the company dollar has been taken out, which means that a more substantial sum of money will be coming out of your check instead of the overall commission. So if you're going to make any such concessions, make sure you get them approved by the market center so you can save yourself a little money. And at the very bottom, here you're going to see the net amount that is left out after everything else comes out. One more time, if you put anything in the outside referral percentage, it will request that you put something in that field as far as brokerage, tax ID, and so on and so on. We could only pay referrals fees to other licensed agents. Therefore, you should be able to get all that information from their W-9s. Once done with the numbers, we move to the next section. Co-agent, it is required that you put the name of the co-agent, and if actually you had a good transaction with them, if you think that they're going to be a good fit to the company, you can put that in here and put a few notes. Why do you think they're going to be a good fit? If you want us to contact them and so on. And over here you can select if you've actually talked to them about the career in Keller Williams. That way Jeff could reach out to them and see if he can recruit them to the company. Next section would be your vendors. Right now, none of this is mandatory, but eventually we will be making at the very least the lending company mandatory field. So pay attention in the future in case you have to fill it in. Next section, notes. Again, those notes mysteriously are vanishing, or at least people don't know where exactly the notes are going. So don't waste your time on typing notes. Just give us a call and tell us if there's anything specific we should be keeping our eyes open for. Once you're ready, your file has been submitted for compliance in DotLoop. You're ready to submit your Greensheet to the MCA, which at the moment it's Rose, the Market Center Administrator, and select Submit Greensheet. And you're all done. That's all you need to know about Greensheets and Loops at this point. Again, my contact information, you can find it on my business card, which is I will make sure My business card, it's in every business center we have, but right now it's in the Destin Market Center. You'll see tons of emails coming out from me with my signature line containing all of my contact information there as well. At the very bottom of my signature line, you're going to find a little picture that says click here for tech support. So please make sure you use the ticket system if you have any tech concerns or if you just have any questions. Use that system, but at this time I'll open the microphones for a couple of minutes, see if we have any questions. If not, then the class is over, so you're free to go about your business, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. So, any questions?
Greensheet is only after everything's closed.
No. Greensheet
All the
is
contracts are signed. After all, everything's executed but not closed.
no.
Prior to
It's prior to closing. It's about a week before closing. If you don't have a Greensheet, you cannot get paid. So, and a lot of us want to get paid at the closing table. Therefore, we need to submit the Greensheet at least a week in advance, together with our file to compliance. So the admins and the Market Center administrator can review all the documents and issue the disbursement authorization form that you have to give to the title company at closing. Any other questions? No? Everyone's good? Alrighty, well, that would be everything for today. I have another webinar coming in tomorrow on social media. I also have the training, which it will be the Flex MLS training here in the Market Center. That one would not be a webinar, so feel free to join me for that one as well if you have the time tomorrow at 9 o'clock, or the next webinar, it's going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock on social media. So thank you everyone for joining me, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks.